You're listening to The Women in the Arena. I'm your host, Paige, former collegiate athlete turned leadership entrepreneur for women just like you. Each week, I'm bringing you a new person or message to help you expand and elevate into the woman you know you're meant to be. Now, let's step into the arena. Hey guys, what better way to spend the remainder of December than to talk about your vision for 2024. And hear me out, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do more work or it's very taxing. I mean, our schedules are pulling us in so many different directions. There's holiday cards. I'm not going to lie, I just made mine today and it is the 12th when I'm recording this podcast. So I'm not even sure if they're going to get out to everybody in time, but it's been a wild December, and I say wild in the best way. So what I want to talk to you about today is creating that vision of success for 2024. And right now I am in the middle of a 4-day challenge called the 2024 Vision Challenge. And I'm so excited about it. I feel like I've been shouting it from the rooftops, really, because this is the first time that I've offered it in a group setting. But truthfully, this is the vision process I've been going through since 2017, I dipped my toe in. 2018, I went all in and I was like, I'm just going to see if I can create what's going to happen in 2019. And so 5 years later, I'm just really excited to share my personal process with you guys. And if after listening to this, you're like, I have to know the rest of the process and you really want to go through it for yourself while the live 4-day challenge will be complete, I will offer the trainings for you. So you can contact me about those, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and all you have to say is vision. So without further ado, I'm actually going to start with my letter from 2018. So I'm saying letter and I'm saying vision process because there's a 4-step vision process that I do. And when I'm done with it, I typically write a letter to my future self. You don't have to write the letter. It's just a little bit of a fun, little romantic, creative way that I kind of seal my 2024 vision. But if you want to create a vision board or if you want to have these listed on a really cool sticky note in front of you, that's totally fine too. But I'm sitting here with all of my letters that I've written over the past couple years, and it's really cool to reflect back on how far I've come. And I want that for you too, when you reflect on how far you've come, because you truly can feel proud about where you've come and excited for where you're going. And that's really, really important to know, because a lot of us are better at thinking about, okay, well, I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And you're coming from this place of disappointment. And in this podcast episode, we have no room for that. We are women in the arena going for what we want. And this one's about creating the success and the vision that you see for yourself in 2024. So I'm going to go through this as much as I can in these 4 steps. And again, if you want the complete version, send me a message and I'll get you that recording. I'm not sure what the price is going to be on it, but it'll be $47 or less. So in December of 2018, I remember thinking to myself, I'm seeing a lot of people in the coaching world. I had hired a life coach in 2017 and had been working on some personal things. And I started seeing a lot of people post about essentially having some kind of say in creating your life. And this was super appealing to me at the time. I didn't understand how to strike the balance from, okay, I believe in God, I believe in a higher power, and there's a plan for me, yet I feel like I have things that I could be doing, or I feel like there's these tools in my mind that I could be using to create the life that I want. And so through the past 5 years and this process, and running Paige coaching, working with clients and having mentors, I've really decided that I truly believe that it's a collaborative effort. Creating the life of your dreams is a collaborative effort. And what I mean by that is I don't believe the dreams that I have and have had are by accident. I believe they're put on my heart for a reason. And I believe the same for you, because truly I've never had the dream to run a marathon. So I've never run a marathon. And I've also never had the dream to be a firefighter. So I'm not a firefighter, right? But that's different for me and different for you. And that's why I feel like your dreams are your dreams. They're meant for you and they're not by mistake. And so that's the first piece of it. It's a 2-part collaboration, right? There is divine guidance and signs if you're open to receiving them and looking for them. There's your faith. Again, I use God, but if you believe in a higher power of any kind, you can use the universe, you can use angels, whatever suits you. That is the guidance. It's those little nudges, that voice inside your head that is planted there for a reason. And then there comes your part. So if all those years ago I had gotten the vision and the dream to be an entrepreneur and work in this space and work for myself and have financial and time freedom, and I had just thought about it, I wouldn't be here where I am. So there is that collaborative effort where I have to take those steps. I have to really take the nudge. And I was watching the movie on Netflix, Leave the World Behind. Julia Roberts stars in it, Ethan Hawke, and it's a really cool movie. It's recently came out. And Julia Roberts' daughter in the movie feels like she's getting signs from God, and her mom's just not understanding her. And she feels like these signs are telling her to seek safety. And so she says to her mom, well, Mom, it's like this story I once heard. And here's the story. There was a man who was in a dangerous flood zone during a storm. And before the waters got too high, his neighbors waded over to his house and said, hey, do you want to evacuate with us and our family? And the man was like, no, God's got me. I'm going to be okay. It's okay. So the neighbors went on and evacuated. The waters continued to rise. And when they were about a foot into this man's house, there was a boat that came by. It was a small little rowboat, and another neighbor said, hey, look, these waters are continuing to rise. Like, come evacuate with me. You can hop in my boat and we'll get to safety. And the man's like, no, God's got me. I'm good right where I'm at. The man in the boat continued on. And then the waters were really high, like dangerously high, to where a helicopter had to fly in and land on a nearby building. And one of the rescue team members said to the man, hey, like, we can get you up on the helicopter and lift you to safety. And again, the man's like, actually, God's got me. Like, I'm fine. And eventually, as you may have predicted listening to the story, the man passed away. He died. He drowned. And when he was talking to God, he said, hey, why did you let me die? And God says, well, I gave you a neighbor, I gave you a boat, and I gave you a helicopter. And that story really landed with me when I watched it in the movie. Don't worry, there's no spoiler alerts in that, so you should still go check out that Netflix movie. It really landed with me because I thought, this is exactly how I believe we should be living our lives. We should listen for that divine guidance and find that rhythm of doing and being, right? Being as in listening to our guidance, and doing the things that we feel are guided action. And sometimes that can be really hard. And so I understand if that feels a little bit foreign, but bear with me because the next 4 steps are not so foreign. But back in 2018, when I started working in my vision process and really went all in on that process, I was scared to write down some of the things that I wanted. But what I found was that if I just gave myself permission to experiment with what was possible, then who knows what would have happened, right? Who knows, what I could create. And so I just decided that everything great was on the other side of fear. I think I heard Will Smith say that at one point, but I decided that. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to create my vision for 2019. And so I did. And so the first step in the process is what I call refine. And refine is essentially making something incrementally better. And I'm curious, if you guys were to go back and put one word that describes your 2023, what would it be? Like, how would you define your 2023 in one word? I know for me, at first, I wanted to say messy because I feel like business was one big experiment, and I actually have an inkling that it will always be. And also like navigating career, relationship, personal life. We're planning for a wedding. There's just so many things and everybody's busy. Side note, it drives me nuts when somebody's like, I've been so busy. It's like, yeah, we're all busy all the time. So let's come up with a different answer. That sounds harsh. Refine, again, is about how to incrementally make something better. And we start with this first step in the process because we have to create good energy and good vibrations. If you understand that your thoughts create your feelings, day one is harnessing those thoughts that are going to create the feelings that make you feel good. Because when you feel good, your feelings drive your actions, right? When you're feeling motivated and excited, what do? you have more energy to share ideas and to brainstorm and to call a friend up and talk. When you're thinking that you had a disappointing year, or that you wish you would be in a different spot, or you're too old or too young or too late or whatever, that creates feelings of disappointment or feelings of guilt or feelings of shame. And what do you do when you feel guilty or shameful or disappointed? You don't do much of anything, or you continually beating yourself up in that habit loop, or that thought loop, That's why Refine is all about creating that good energy for yourself. And so in my Refine process, I really look at my year in the rear view, and I create a personal highlight sheet for myself. What did I do really well? How was I proud of how I was being? Where did I travel? What relationships did I mend? What relationships did I release? Who did I get to celebrate? What new book did I read? What new documentary did I watch? The list goes on and on and on. And if you're listening to this and you want to try it for yourself, have so much fun creating this list. You can even go through from like January to December in your photos. That'll jog a lot of memories in your phone. And really have some fun with this, because when you do look back, you're going to feel elevated because you've done so much, and so much more than you give yourself credit for. And those thoughts are going to get you in a great place to start building momentum for the year ahead, right? When you're feeling really good, looking at everything you've accomplished, the tough things that you've done, I'm going to bet that you feel empowered. I'm going to bet that you feel proud. And those are the feelings that you deserve to feel. If you're going to expect yourself to bust your butt and accomplish so many things and work so hard, you need to be able to look back and be proud of that. And again, that feeling stemming from those productive thoughts, those growth thoughts about everything you're doing well, are what are going to create momentum and excitement moving forward. So once I'm done with the refine process, it is step number 2, which is receive. Receiving is where I am really receiving the intentions that I want for 2024. For me personally, a lot of it has to do with business. It always is. And so in the receive process, I'll usually categorize the things that I want to see for 2024. Now, warning, in this process, you're going to think of something that you want to do. Maybe it's run a marathon. I don't know why that's my easiest example, but it is. Maybe it's run a marathon. Well, then immediately you'll notice yourself, well, how are you going to have time to train for that? And you've tried that before and you weren't successful. All of those thoughts come flooding in and they don't serve you. And so give yourself permission to create your intentions. You do not have to know about the how in step number 2. You just have to create your intentions. Receive your intentions openly. Be curious about what you want. So for me, that looks like separating, what do I want to see in my career? What do I want to see in my team that I'm building? What are my intentions for my health? What are my intentions for the wedding coming up? What are my intentions for my relationships? And again, relationships can be primary relationship, friendships. Maybe you're yearning for a social community. I was listening to the radio this morning, and there's a longevity guru who did a study on the 8 habits of the happiest people. And habit number 3 was socializing with people you like. And I think sometimes we take that for granted. I know, especially when my default is to like work and get things done and be efficient in every hour possible, I can feel myself getting burnt out. I can feel myself getting depleted or short. And I know that socialization is one of those things that really helps me. Just even grabbing coffee with a friend and just being completely yourself and just talking about things other than work is really, really helpful. So anyways, create those intentions and you can just write them down. My intention for my career, my intention for my health. And health is separated into mental, physical, and well-being. So anyone can come up with a list in any of those categories. And I would start big. Let yourself start big and let yourself think about those categories, and then we can narrow those down. But really let yourself receive those, okay? That's step number 2. So we've refined, really looked back at our 2023 and gotten really excited about the things that we've accomplished and who we were being. And then we received intentions that we want in different categories of our life for 2024. And also when I'm talking to you guys, I intend for you to write these down. When you write things down, they become stronger and it's also easier to work through them, or typing them out, same thing. You guys, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I had very few examples of women in leadership positions. And sometimes when I shared what I was building with my friends or with my coworkers at the time, they just didn't really get it. Even when I wanted to create some new goals and talk about those ambitions, I didn't feel like I had a community of women to share that with, which is why I found an online community of other multi-passionate, like-minded women. If you can relate, join us in our Rise Facebook community where you get free weekly coaching, a network of amazing women who are also in the arena, and you're the first to know about the latest offers. Women leaders rise together. See you inside our Rise Facebook community. You can find the link in the show notes. Step number 3 in my vision process is called embody or embrace. So what I mean by embody is just like your body can hold tension from a traumatic experience and your mind can relive that experience, you can also do that for the things that you want. So, for example, let's say I did something embarrassing in front of a group of people yesterday. Yesterday is gone. It's literally in the past. But today I could be telling somebody about it and my stomach could be in knots and I could start sweating because my body can react as if that event's happening, even though it's already happened and it's in the past. And I want to encourage you to get into that same experience, but for something that you actually desire for the future. So this could look like maybe one of the intentions you wrote down was I'll tell you actually one of my intentions. One of my intentions I wrote down was to generate a certain amount of revenue for 2024. And I broke that down into monthly revenue. One of the ways that I did step number 3 was I asked myself, okay, if I'm looking at my bank account or PayPal and I see X amount of dollars in my bank account, how am I going to feel? How am I going to feel? Am I going to feel accomplished? Am I going to want to donate to a charity? Am I going to want to pay my team members more? Am I going to want to hire more team members? Like, what is that feeling going to be when I get my intention? Then what is it going to propel me to do? So that's more of the fun piece of really embodying what it is you want to create, right? And you make it more real for yourself when you can feel it. If you're like, yeah, I just want to be healthier in 2024. Well, that's like throwing noodle at the wall and hoping it sticks. That's not very grounded for you. It's not sticky enough. So you have to decide, okay, health, if I want to be healthier, if that's my intention, what is my definition of healthier? Is it tracking my macros? Is it walking 8,000 steps a day? Is it finding a gym to go to consistently, whether that's 2 times, 3 times, 4 times a week, whatever that is for you? And then once you're doing that, how do you feel? How are you feeling when you wake up in the morning? How are you feeling in your new routine or in your new standard for your health? What does it look like? And you can really get into those feelings and your body can experience it. You know, going back to how your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings drive your actions. When you're thinking those exciting things, you can feel that, and that creates that motivation again. So step number 1 is refine, reflect on 2023. Step number 2 is receive, write down all your intentions for 2024. Intentions is another word I use for goals. Some people feel some type of way about goals. So intentions to me feels a little bit more freeing, but you can use goals too if that feels better for you. And then step number 3 is embody or embrace. So really sit with, how am I going to feel when this is my reality? I remember one of the biggest things I wrote down in the 2018 letter, actually reading it in front of me. It says, I also can't believe you finally got a new car. I know how hard you worked for this and how long you've wanted it. Enjoy it. And so, of course, that was before I could get a new car. I was still driving a beat up like Hyundai Sonata. And I had always driven beater cars because my dad thinks he can fix everything and it's more cost effective. And so that was really, really important to me, was to be able to buy my brand new car. And I remember writing that and then erasing it at first because I was like, no, like, what if I don't do it? That just feels very uncomfortable. And even though nobody was around when I was reading this, and no, I wasn't sharing it with anybody, I just went ahead and crossed it out. But then I wrote it again because I was like, you know what? This is a sign that this is what I need to be writing. And so I did it, and I bought my brand new car in August of 2019. And I remember being so stinking excited about it. And so that was part of my process. But before I got it, I did go through that embody. I was like, how's it going to feel when the windows are down? And, you know, my dog that I was envisioning at the time and my partner that I didn't have that I was envisioning at the time, we're both in the car. And it just really created feelings of excitement. And so that's what I let myself do when I was thinking about that. The final step in my vision process is called create. Now, those of you that are really action oriented and want to get those hows figured out, create is where we do that. So for every intention and every feeling of that intention, we add 3 tangible action items. So if this was me back in 2018, I don't think I solidified this step back then, but in 2018, what I would have done when I wrote down the intention of buying a new car is one of the action steps would have just been to start researching, I don't know, cars that I wanted. And maybe step number 2 was test drive. And maybe step number 3 was come up with a budget, right? And not necessarily in that order, but those are the tangible action steps that you can measure your progress against. Because if you go back and look like 6 months down the road in 2024, and you go back and look at the intentions you wrote down in the action steps, you have a very clear map for how you could move forward. Even if you feel like you've kind of gotten lost along the way, that's okay. You still have that framework to go back to, and that's really important for you. So again, those are my 4 steps of my vision process, and I write all these out. And once I've completed those 4 steps, I turn all of it into a letter, and I write the letter in December for the next December. And they all start with Dear Paige. So I'm writing to myself. So this is, hang in there with me. This is a little bit maybe woo-woo, but I write to myself a year down the road. So myself 1 year older, as if I've already accomplished everything. So in my last letter, I think you guys will find this interesting. I wrote it December 28th, 2022. My first 2 sentences are, I know it is hard for you to sit and be still with feelings, but you have to celebrate this year. This was your first year full time and you freaking crushed it. So that's how I opened up the letter last year. That's how I started it. And that was rooted in my intentions for what I wanted to create this year. And did I miss the mark on some? Yeah, definitely. But did I crush it in some areas? I definitely did. And it gave me a really, really great starting point. So once you get done with your 4-step vision process, you can write a letter to your future self. You can create a vision board. If you write the letter, I would keep it visible for you to check in on every now and then. I don't mean read it every day or every week, but keep it visible so that those feel real to you still. You can keep that vision alive. I think the first or second year, I would seal the letter up as if it was like a surprise for the end of the year. And then I'd go back and read it at the end of the year and I'd be like, I forgot about that. So that's why I think that it's cool to keep it out and visible in some kind of area, whether that's a letter or a vision board. So let me know if you guys really enjoyed this. Again, if you want the entire live training where I go into detail about all these steps, we are going through that this week. And by the time you hear the podcast, it will be available in a digital version. You can go ahead and send me a DM. And then as always, let me know what you think about this episode. Happy creating your 2024 vision process. And I hope it gives you clarity and peace of mind to be fully present for the holiday season. I'll talk to you guys next time. I hope today's episode inspired you on your journey in the arena. Make sure to check out the show notes in the description for a rundown of today's show with all the important links. If you enjoyed this, please share with a friend. I know how much it means to me when my friends share podcasts. Leave us a review and let us know what landed with you over on Instagram at Paige_Renee15. As always, your best bet is on yourself.